I would happily entertain a motion to approve November meeting minutes as written unless somebody has adjustments to the November meeting minutes.
I wasn't here, so I'm saying.
I would
Anybody?
briefly look over, but I'll, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? All right, done. Yeah. I would like to point out to everybody, and maybe, not everybody's heard, was pedestrian fatality at Ferndale River Road this last week. So, I don't know the specifics. I've been out of town. I just got back half an hour before the meeting, and I need to do some research on that, but,
So I can, we drove by probably an hour after coming, and there's a bike on, so
Yeah, it said it was the older person.
I heard, this is hearsay, but on the internet, there was a story that it was a regular, bicycle pass, a bicyclist who lives in the area and has had issues with traffic in the past. So I don't know if that means this person was houseless or if they are regularly intoxicated, but that the police who attended the scene recognized the person as being someone who's had interference with traffic in the past.
The report I read, I think it was linked off of KZI, just said they were in their 60s and heading southbound, and a southbound car in the right-hand lane said that they came out in front of them at the last second.
okay. And I would just let everybody know that, our, board member Patrick Kerr passed away in September. There is a scheduled memorial for him on January 20th from 3 to 5 at the Irving Grange. If anybody wants to come, you're all welcome.
January 20th.
January 20th,
what is the time of that?
3 to 5 p.m. at the Irving Grange.
Thank you.
That's on Irvington Drive, for anybody who doesn't know where that is. And I would just let you know in advance that the January meeting is going to have the presentation from the Social Justice Committee. So that'll be our main event, that and the appreciation brigade that we like to have in January. Okay, so, let's see, Terry, you were on that, so the City of Eugene's Neighborhood Association program, which provides funding for outreach to recognized neighborhood associations to do mailings to their neighbors, and they provide equipment you can borrow, and they provide some funding annually for one social event. They are reorganizing the way they allocate funding, and there was a meeting this last week, and I wasn't at the whole thing, so.
And Larry was there another time, yeah. Yeah, it was for me, I'm fairly new to this whole process, and so the trimester funding that they were doing was very confusing to me, and I was kind of out of the loop, but I'm sure you're much more.
No, but
Yeah.
everybody was confused.
Everybody was
I think all the neighborhood organizations were really confused because it kind of dictated when they could send out those mailings, because it depended on where those funds showed up. And that there was a requirement that these 4 mailings or 4 ways of communicating with your neighborhood organization, 2 of those newsletters, at least 2, some other printed material. They're looking at that, kind of see if they're gonna continue mandating that much printed material, because it's, people see it and think of it as, junk mail and get rid of it and don't look at things. So,
And it's expensive.
yeah. So I think they're on a, right now, they're getting funds for the next 2 years, and they're gonna do it on a yearly basis. But they're also going to require the neighborhood organizations to put together a yearly plan for when they're gonna put out printed material and events, so that that's set up ahead of time so people can actually plan for when they're going to be spending money and have some idea what they're going to spend. they're gonna spend it on, so it's a little bit better managed than it is right now, folks, and a little more equitable.
It sounded like it was pretty popular with the other neighborhood associations. Ideally, what it would look like, because it does sound like they are leaning in and going to be doing this. So in 2024, we would be meeting and strategically planning when we'd be doing mailings, when we'd be doing events, what money might be needed for those engagements with community members. And so ultimately, the city would also be available to assist with that strategic plan. And by end of April, 1st of May, neighborhood associations would submit that to the city of Eugene so that the city would know, obviously allocation is based on size, right, of organizations. And so, so by July 1st, then they would know what that fiscal year would look like and what we were planning. And I thought it was a great idea.
The other thing that came up was that they're going to be hosting websites for the neighborhood organizations. So that right now, I guess everybody's doing their own. And to be able to have each organization be able to host their website on their servers would probably be really good. And some organizations pay for it, some don't. So that's where some of their money has been going. Yeah.
And that approach is called an annual work plan. Yeah. So I did have some questions about, because you said you use QSL for printing. When we did the concert at Aubrey Park, I did try and go through QSL for just some flyers. I think a total of 40 flyers, and they were very helpful and very nice, but the cost was going to be about $230 for that. And I went gulp and then called FedEx, and I really wanted to use somebody local, just a local organization, more local, and ended up going through FedEx because it was a quarter of the price. So
well, QSL, what I like about going through them is because not only do they print it, they do the mailing part of it.
Yeah.
They take care of,
Collating it.
holding it, all that, and putting the addresses on and getting it out the door. And I think that if we moved it, I haven't looked at anybody else to see if they could do the printing and the collating. We still probably have to go through QSL for the mailing part, because that's who the city sends their addresses to. So we might be able to break it out and have save some money, but I haven't looked into that yet.
And Kate asked a great question. You asked a great question about how to get engagement on community members who would like to stay informed, leaving their email addresses so that we actually have access to send out newsletters and that sort of thing to them. And it's been really tough. So maybe this is another plug. If somebody listens to this somehow and hasn't given us their email address, it sure would be nice to add you to the mailing list and keep you informed.
Thanks for that, Udar. Is there anything to report from the SJC for the last month?
Sure, yeah, we've had some great meetings. First and foremost, the next meeting is actually December 16th, which is Saturday. We have a full agenda of things to talk about. We've had some new attendees, which has been really nice. We decided on a new standing agenda item that is service opportunities, and we're really looking for services that are providing support within Santa Clara River Road area. And there are some, I mean, I've given shout outs to St. Matt's so many times, but they again, this season really stepped up and supported some families, and Santa Clara Community Organization was able to partner with them to support families with some food bags for Thanksgiving, any excess that they got in the form of monetary donations. They were buying Christmas presents and for holiday gifts for those families. And then they asked us to do some family food boxes because the break over the holiday break is just long enough with kids home that they need there were some families that said, yeah, we can use some support. And so we've gotten to partner with them on that too. Martha brought up some organizations that are doing good work, in the way of housing. And, so we have a list, and I would say if anybody's interested in partnering with us to do that, or interested at all, you can send information to the SJC and we can follow up with you if you'd like to help. The other thing is, we do have the education topic in January, regarding disability, and I think that's gonna be really, really interesting just to see how we can be better neighbors and find out, just, yeah, to learn and grow together. So I hope people show up for that. It's gonna be a good one. And we have more in the way of housing, and I really appreciate, you know, the updates that you've provided, Gary, with the navigation center and everything, because I know that, it is a multifaceted, it's a big pie, and wherever people are doing good work, it helps, and that's a huge crisis in our community. So I think that's it.
And there was the grand opening of Peace Village last week, which was super exciting, and we got to go through and see the units and all the just legislators who helped lobby for funding were there, and although it was pouring rain, it was very well attended. And they're gonna start, hoping to get their occupancy, permits this week, and maybe people will be moving in by mid-December, so that's pretty exciting.
Okay, how does that work? I mean, so we're talking about the multi-employee units down here, right?
Yeah.
So how does it work? And my second question, kind of silly, when my wife and I drive by that, where's everyone gonna park? Are they just gonna take the bus?
Some of both, there's parking, it's over on the west side of the lot.
It's kind of curious.
And, it's managed by, Square One Villages, it's their project, and they, have, you know, they take applications, there was applications open, I think in October for spots there. And, then they have their own screening process, and they choose, who gets to move in, and there's, the sort of high level is the land is owned through a community land trust. The residents are members of a limited equity co-op that own the buildings. And so they are their own landlords, and there's a $5,000 buy-in that goes into a fund and is kept in escrow for them, and they get it back if they choose to leave at some point. And then they pay a monthly rent for each unit. There is a fund set aside for people who can't muster $5,000, and they can borrow up to $4,000 of that to be able to begin their tenancy. And I think the studio units start at like, I want to say $375 or $400 a month, and the largest is a 2-bedroom is $700 or $750 a month. And there's community laundry and meeting facilities and a community kitchen, and every unit has their own kitchen and bathroom, and pretty lovely layout for the village itself, and it all remains to be seen. Yeah.
Do you know what the occupancy rate is gonna be?
There's-
How fast are they gonna be?
70 units, and I think they have a wait list, so I think as soon as they're ready,
They had over 200 people signed up,
so they're ready to fill up.
so it'll fill up fast.
And they'll have their own governance, they're going to be shepherded in figuring out how to govern themselves, right? So they'll provide classes and how to do it, and the residents will create their own governance system and take care of it.
Just like the first one in our area, is this something that they have a lot of these over the area of Eugene and Springfield?
No, this is their largest project to date. So they started as Opportunity Village, and then they did Emerald Village, and then there's C Street Co-op. So they do all kinds of models. So the C Street Co-op is taking a single family residential house and dividing it up into 4 separate units with an ADU in the back. So then there's 5 units there on one little city lot. And those people are their own co-op. And then Emerald Village Eugene down on Railroad Boulevard, down there, that's tiny homes, they're their own co-op. And Square One, it does that thing where they own the land, and the residents are a limited equity cooperative that own their buildings, and it's operated in the same way. So the reason they do it that way is they can make it affordable in perpetuity, because it's not subject when someone wants to leave, to market forces raising the property value. Because they don't own the property, they just own the buildings. And there's a cap on, buildings tend to depreciate, land appreciates. So it works out that it can remain affordable for perpetuity as opposed to a general, affordable housing project, which often has, 20 years of, that the developer is required to commit to a certain number of years of affordable housing based on the average median income, but after whatever time period is that sunsets, they don't have to have affordable units anymore, it can all be market rate housing, and so this is a way to do something different. Yeah. Let's see, Friends of Aubrey Park.
I'll report since Gary's not here, but Katie and Jim back there showed up to help. They're new to the community and did you see the sign or how'd you find the? Saw the sign. and so, yeah, we bored with blackberries for a couple of hours and did some damage. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I would let you know that Friends of Wendover Park work party is this upcoming Saturday from 10 to 12 for anybody who's interested. And the community garden, Peter's not here. Tim Felker, the foundation.
I don't have too much to report. We are always looking for new board members. It would be nice to have little or no overlap between the two boards. And we have 3 people, I believe, overlapping. And so if you're interested at all, you can go to Santa Clara Community Foundation.org and find the application to be a board member and apply. That would be great. We've built up a fair amount of infrastructure to be able to do our bookkeeping through QuickBooks and using GrantStation to try to identify grant opportunities. We had a work party at Heilman last month, Heilman Landing County Park at the end of Heilman off East Beacon. And we only had about 5 people, but we got a lot of work done, did some trail work. And I was over there today and it's getting flooded. So it remains to be seen what next month's or this month's work party is going to be. We did a visit to the schoolhouse. Kate, you want to talk about the schoolhouse update?
Why were we, I'm sorry, we had
The measurement for the.
oh yeah, we went to just got, so we're interested in trying to finalize the contract with the city of Eugene, and one of the unknowns in our contract was how much land outside the footprint of the building we want to use or be responsible for. And so we have in our planning discussed that we really want to have a sizable deck off the back of the building so that in warmer months, the occupancy possibilities or event possibilities are a little bit bigger. And we wanted to create a standalone, small 10 by 12 or 12 by 16, we haven't decided, building that we could store tables and chairs and materials in so that the actual interior of the building, which is like 950 square feet, can all be available for flexible use instead of having to store all that material and to try to use as much space as possible. So we just measured out what that looks like, and the local contractor who's going to be mentoring us in the project was there to help us sort it out a bit. And I'm needing to call Carolyn Burke and follow up and get moving. So that's where we're at there.
Yeah, just for clarification, when we sign the contract with the city, we have to tell them exactly what land we're setting aside for that schoolhouse.
The footprint.
Yeah, so we didn't know until we went out and actually measured to try to imagine what our operation is going to look like.
Yeah. We want to minimize it to the greatest degree possible, so there's less maintenance that we need to provide 24/7. So was in, finding the balance between function and responsibility. So
And
that,
next time we talk to Katie and Jim, I tell you about the schoolhouse, because right now, I know it's a mystery we're talking about.
there are no land use updates, because I, just got into town, had half an hour before the meeting and didn't get a chance to look it up, so. Any other updates from folks? Oh, I have one other update. So the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan went to the Eugene Planning Commission, and they deliberated in late November and didn't quite finish their deliberations. And then the Citizen Advisory Committee went ahead and submitted a letter to help clarify some of their questions, and they continued their deliberations on December 5th. And I was out of town. I watched part of it, but I couldn't stay tuned in until the very end because I had other things going on. So I'm not really sure how the end of that goes, and I'll have to look it up, but it was it's always interesting, is I guess how I'll put it. Hopefully they voted to move it forward, and then it goes to the city councilors. So we'll see. I have to finish looking at the video and see how it rounded out at the end. I think there still seems to be confusion on the part of the planning commission about why there are certain, it's primarily around the code changes. Reduced height of buildings in C2 zones along River Road, and a list of prohibited uses that was generated by neighbors based on future outcomes and existing land use patterns. For instance, stop using our C2 land for storage units, because we will never get our wanted neighborhood scale commercial if somebody has to come in and redevelop storage units to give us commercial. If we can just not have more storage units in our neighborhood, we'll get to the place where we want to have the kind of commercial we want sooner. And they are very uncomfortable about things like that. So it's curious to me that they can't quite see it, even with a very clear description of why. So we'll see.
This is, the city of Eugene talking about this, right?
That's the city of Eugene's planning commission. It will also go to Lane County Planning Commission, because it has to be adopted by both electeds, because our neighborhood boundaries exist beyond the city's urban growth boundary.
Do we have more, shouldn't say trouble with Eugene and Lane County, or they both have these questions?
Well, Lane County isn't gonna have any, they don't have to adopt the code updates, because none of that land use stuff is theirs to do. That's all city of Eugene.
City,
So they're gonna adopt different parts of the plan, but they both have to adopt the parts that pertain to them. So I don't know if it's, if we're gonna have trouble. It might mean that we need to advocate with the city council, because the planning commission provides a recommendation to the city council. And if they've recommended something that is contravening what we recommended to the planning commission, we can work around and go directly to the decision makers and try to advocate for what we want and get them to reinstate something. So it's to be seen. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, I have two other updates. Let's see. There is a luminary parade for the winter solstice that we host in the northeast corner of Santa Clara. I will make sure to send it to Tim, and it can get on the website if people want to come. It's on the winter solstice at 5 p.m. You make your own luminary, whatever that is. It's even just a light bulb around your neck, and come walk with other people and celebrate the darkest day of the year with the light.
What day is that?
The 21st. And then there's also a community caroling. If anybody likes to walk around and sing to strangers on December 23rd, you could let me know and I would send you the information. Oh, and happy Hanukkah. It's the first night of Hanukkah. I'd like to sing, but I'm not a Christian. So I'm all about lyrics. Okay. Anybody else with recommended presentations for upcoming meetings or concerns they want to have aired, or
we've got the next couple meetings, right? The social justice and then the next one is the elections.
But elections isn't generally terribly long. Yeah.
Well, I'm revisiting what was brought up by, another community member several months ago about public safety. And wondering if it would be good to have someone from EPD, and Cahoots maybe to come out. Egan just did a really great, presentation. It was hosted by Egan, but it was by Cahoots, and it was really, really good. It was, you know, de-escalation and trauma-informed care, which I think would help all of us in this day and age. Anyway, it was wonderful, but I think there was interest in the public safety side where the police go. And, I have talked to one of the officers who said they would gladly come out. That's what they love to do, because they love to, you know, be a face, meet neighbors, answer questions and all that. So,
Do you need the sheriff as well?
well, because we just had the sheriff, we could, I mean, do we just everybody together? I think that would be a really hard night to find.
When did the sheriff come out last time?
May? Is it May? No, April. It was right.
With the
Before the
elections, because they were,
That bond measure.
right,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you're talking about, public safety and how it affects residents who have concerns, then you kind of need both, because.
Yeah, because that's who we are.
I mean, maybe it needs a little bit more coordination. You want to sort of like create a panel discussion and have Cahoots, EPD and the sheriff?
Let me see what I can do. I will, reach out and see what we can figure out.
And the neighborhood food drive.
Yeah, March this year for the neighborhood food drive. So thank you. That just came out last week. And, so Santa Clara Community Organization has offered to host a site, or I think we'll do a day, not a whole month this year. I'm learning as I go. So maybe options for sites. I was thinking if we could get on Fred Meyer, that would be great. Or Albertsons or something like that, but yeah. So anyway, March 2nd, I think.
And grocery outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day.
That'd be super, and just doing it for, you know, a few hours and having some volunteers and, supporting Food for Lane County, that'd be great. So more to come, I guess, maybe next meeting.
And if anybody wants to volunteer at Egan Warming Shelters, there's a bunch of us who do it. It's pretty fun and not a whole lot of work, but provides an essential service to people who don't have any shelter on very, very cold nights. And there are upcoming trainings. If you go to the St. Vincent de Paul website and put in Egan Warming Shelters, it's an online training. It doesn't take very long. There are other people there to take care of the most intense interaction. You can do jobs where you don't interact with guests at all. You can do jobs where you interact a lot. You can work in the kitchen. There's all kinds of opportunities for
It's a
every.
great
group level.
education. You'll find out things that you didn't realize.
And the closest site in our, to our neighborhood is Trinity Methodist on Maxwell, which is.
And if there's any question about Trinity, Trinity as a church is closing, but, St. Vincent de Paul has received access to the church for Egan Warming Centers through the spring. So that was a big question that came up.
Thanks for bringing Santa Clara Water District in. That was.
Right. Was somebody else, it was even your recommendation or suggestion, so thank you for suggesting. Okay, if we don't have anything else.
I will say that, if people don't know, I am a member of the Lane County Parks Advisory Committee. And so if anybody has any questions about Lane County Parks, there are 73 parks in the county. I'm the liaison for District 1, which goes from here to the coast. And if you have any questions about the parks, the two parks in our neighborhood are Howman Landing and Whiteley Landing along the river there. So I don't know, maybe we can make a presentation out of that by somebody from the Parks Department.
Okay, I'll write it down on the list. LC Parks. Thanks, Tim.
I think that help, Santa Clara host page for, the Santa Clara Water District. Roll them to.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Tell your neighbors. Come to the meeting.